Hello and welcome to episode 51 of our podcast. In this episode, we are having a bit of a show and tell. We've hit some incredible numbers with our podcast and wanted to take the time to share with you and also reflect on our first full 12 months of podcasting. We tell you our download stats, the countries that listen in, and the most popular and least popular episodes. We also share how our process has changed from our first episode in Paris up to now, as we are planning for our next series, which we have coming up. As this episode is published in real time in May 2023, we are off to Italy and we'll be doing lots of episodes as we go in our usually style of fun, informative, and of course, sharing the best places to enjoy a glass of wine in each city. Listen to the end where we tell you our itinerary and the very exciting reason we changed our plans from having a weekend in Milan and are now instead heading off to Bologna. And here's a hint: think very fast cars. Also, listen to find out how you can help with the travel plans in Italy. And also, we give you 11 ways, 11 that you can help us grow our podcast, or how you can show support. And you know what? None of them involve money. Oh, and if you want to receive a digital postcard each week from Italy, then I will tell you how to do that as well. Enjoy this wrap-up episode and get excited for our Italian series. Arrivederci until next week. Cheers! And welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Lyle, and this is the travel podcast for beach-loving, wine-drinking couples over 50.
So if that sounds like you, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax and listen as we go travelling the world, one wine at a time.
Cheers.
Good morning, Lyle.
Good morning, Miss World.
Oh, it wasn't hasta luego. No, is it? Hola, Linita.
Hola.
Anyway, we're probably moving on from that for a little bit, aren't we?
Sure.
Well, welcome to episode 51, Don.
51.
51. Yeah, this is episode 51. So we've been podcasting now for 12 months. Yeah?
Sure. So does that mean this time last year we were in Paris?
Pretty much. It does mean that, yeah. So, and if you're listening to this in real time in May 2023, it's been 12 months. So, yeah. So when this podcast goes out, we are going to be at the airport getting ready to travel somewhere, which we're going to talk about in a little while. But let's rewind, right, back 12 months, okay? And what we'd like to do in this episode is share with you, basically our 12-month podcasting journey, yeah?
Career,
obsession. Yeah, we'll talk a little about that in a minute. And also what we've got coming up in the foreseeable future, really. So I actually can't believe after 12 months how much we still, or I can't really talk for you, I'm sure you'll agree, how much we love podcasting. Now, I'm a bit of a shiny objects girl, I see something and think, oh, let's do that. And, I'm actually more into podcasting now and enjoying it more than when we first started. Because I remember sitting, in our apartment in Paris, and we've talked about this before, especially in some podcasts that we've been interviewed on. And, I've been trying to get Lyle to start a podcast with me. And do you know what? Initially, we started for our own benefit to, have a record of our travels and that sort of thing. Didn't we, honey?
Yes. Initially, I thought it was a great idea because when Leanne puts me in a nursing home, I'll be able to sit back and listen to and have a giggle at all our adventures. So that's really my selfish way of thinking.
But when we had no plan, really, we just sat there, and I bought these $30 microphones, which we still use to today, and we plugged it into the phone. Now we're using the same, website, but on the computer, and off we went. So, but now we are much more organised, and we do have a bit of a rough plan for each episode, except this one. We're sort of winging it a bit with this one, aren't we?
Sure. But you notice then Leanne never actually denied the fact that she is thinking that I will end up in a nursing home first. So anyway, we'll just dismiss that and we'll move.
Make a great podcast, though, wasn't it?
Right along.
So the podcast, we're travelling now to Sunny Acres Retirement Village. Oh dear.
I'm not sure it's that funny, but anyway, let's move right along.
Let's crack along. All right, at first though, I knew nothing about analytics and even caring what numbers were, and we were lucky to get 100 downloads in a month. Just and like even at the time, I remember messaging my daughter and saying, we've had 50 people listen. We were so excited, and now we're getting over 100 a day. And podcast downloads are a little bit hard to keep track of because all these different platforms they're not good at sharing their information. So I've got to go in and find them all. So, but yeah, like hundreds and
is that like counting Facebook likes?
No. Not at all.
Okay.
No, nothing like that. That's easy. They're all there for you to I think he's making fun of me anyway, get nicked. However, I am a bit addicted to watching stats. I think that's what Lyle's inferring there.
Define obsessed.
How many times a day?
I'd say maybe.
Do you know what?
3, maybe
we get
4.
up each morning and I'm like, do you want to know the numbers?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah. I'm a bit addicted to watching, and the thing is, watching them doesn't make them any better. So, I've told myself to stop doing that. But it is rewarding when you see your hard work paying off.
Yeah.
So it does feel good because it is a labor of love. Like we work really hard at it. Now, like as I said in the beginning, we just sort of sat down and, where'd we go today? And, that was nice. And what did we drink today? Whereas, now we basically, you spend a lot of time researching, even though we've been to the places. We want to make sure that we're getting all the information correct and you try and find an angle that's a bit different as well each time.
Yeah, I think what's changed a little bit for me is that once upon a time, I probably wasn't that involved in the research part of it. I enjoyed the research, and I probably did it after we went, and I just found that really intriguing. And I don't, as Leanne says, it's a labor of love. It is, because I thoroughly enjoy the research. But what I've started to do now is actually research before we go there, the history side of it. And actually that's actually really...
Don't mention where we're going yet.
No, I'm not. But it's really enhanced my discovery of before we get there. So I'm looking forward to seeing places because I've got a reasonable idea of what happened.
Well, we've actually seen amazing growth since February. Like it was going up every month, slowly. But February, it's done the hockey stick hook, and it's still continuing to grow. And I think, and with that, we also see we're getting messages and emails every week asking for, especially on Facebook, that groups that I'm in, and our Facebook page. People asking questions from all over the place, all over the world, asking questions about, like, I want to go to this city, where should I go? Or, and it's not just about, we get a lot of questions about Spain, and we've just done a series on Tasmania, and lots of questions on, how long did it take you to get here? And that actually that makes it all worthwhile when you know that you're helping people, right?
Yeah, you get an interaction.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a really, really good feeling.
And to give you credit, Lan, I you do answer everybody.
Sure.
That's you're very, very consistent on making sure, and not necessarily just a quick answer. Quite detailed. So
it's always detailed because like I want to give them as much information as possible, for sure. But as well as the podcast, right? Which is we've done one every week. Basically,
rain, hail, or shine. But hungover or not hungover.
But honestly, some weeks it's there's a lot more work goes into it. You record on it. Well, normally we try and record on a Tuesday, and it's published on the Monday. And in that time, I've got to put everything together that goes with it. Now, what goes with it is, as well as a podcast, I do show notes. Now, people think, show notes is just a bit of a summary of the podcast, but our show notes are really a blog post all on their own. And, if, say, for instance, the last one, one of the podcasts we did recently was about Bangalore, right, which is a weekend I had away with my daughter. Now that's about a 2-3 page blog post with everywhere we went and information. So everything that's sort of in the podcast, but in a summarized form, and all the pictures that are there, So I take a lot of photos, and it's actually a resource all on its own.
So is that sort of like a reference for the podcast?
Sure. Yeah. But you could read it on its own.
Sure.
And know all about the city, where to go and what to do, and have all the pictures. And there's not normally, anything from 30 pictures or more that I put in, the best ones. And I, so for instance, I talk about, say, a waterfall hike we went on, and I'll say, how do you get there and how far it is? And then there'll be, say 4 or 8 pictures of that. So there's a lot of work goes into that, and I know a lot of travel podcasts, a lot of podcasts don't do that at all, and that takes a fair bit of my time, to be honest. But I think it's a really good resource to have. So, if you want to check any of that out, our website's really easy to find. It's just www.beachtravelwine.com. One of the other things that's been quite fun that I didn't even think about when we started podcasting, Lala's looking at me as if to say, what is she talking about, is being interviewed on other podcasts. I've actively sought out podcasts that I think would be a good fit for, and that's been wonderful, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's really easy.
Yeah, it's fun. Someone else does all the research. They ask you all the questions, and you just got to talk about yourself and your travels. And sometimes it's about how we came to podcast. Other things is like they do a deep dive on one of the places. We've been interviewed about Noosa, about the reef sleep up in Queensland, and
the Great Barrier Reef,
the Spain as well.
I think the thing I like about that most is that, and this is maybe because I'm maybe a little bit unsophisticated, but the idea of talking to someone for an hour, and they're from different countries.
Yeah, different parts of the world.
And
we've made some really good friends, still, like send messages regularly. There's James Hammond from Winging It Travel, and
Hamo. Oh, Hamo.
Yeah. Damo's the guy that took us on that crocodile tour. That's
right.
That's another podcast.
Sorry.
But yeah, we've been interviewed on with about 12 different ones, and we've got more coming up. And I've actually got a page on our website that just has all those there that you can go and see. There's one with Mary that's don't dine to your dead, and there's another one with the what's it called, the most memorable journeys, with that lovely lady from Cyprus. Obviously our first one, which was a real coup, was being on the Amateur Traveller podcast. That's with Chris Christensen, who's got the longest running travel podcast ever. So some great podcasts there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
And it's, as I said, it's easy. It's just us sitting there talking to someone in another part of the world.
Yeah. See, Lyle says it's easy, but what he doesn't see is me finding the podcast and listening and making sure it's a good fit, and then writing the pitch letter. And
at no stage did I say it was easy for you. That's easy for me.
But you want to make sure you're talking on or being interviewed on podcasts that are a good fit for those people's audience and also ours. And that's just one more job to do, but it's a worthwhile part of it. And just as I said, just by meeting people, it's great fun. Now, one thing though we haven't done is we haven't been good at asking you, the listener, to do reviews, etc. Like a lot of podcasts I listen to, when the podcasts start, there's all the ads, and then they jump in to do this and buy me a coffee, and like all that stuff that people do, asking to support the podcast. And we've never had an ad or done that. And I've asked a couple of times.
Are you saying subscribe for the cost of a coffee?
Well, there's a couple of websites that you can have. One's called Patreon, and the other one's called something like Buy Me a Coffee. And people can go there, and you can buy someone a coffee and give them $5, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Right? When someone comes,
similar to what I thought.
Yeah, right. But when someone comes out with Buy Me a Bottle of Wine, we'll be on that.
Oh yeah, you've got me.
But so we haven't done that. But I'm going to do it now, because I know that 90% of you guys listening are either on Apple or Spotify, because our stats do show us that. They love to show you where people are listening from, just not exactly how many people. So if you have enjoyed listening to any of our podcasts, or even if this is the first one and you think we're nice people, please take the time. while you're on the app, you can just go now and go to Apple, and you can actually leave a review there and a 5-star rating. Or if you're on Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating as well. And, we'd really appreciate it. And if you leave us a good review, we might even give you a shout out on our website or our podcast.
So can I clarify?
Yes, darling.
5-star reviews. So what you're really implying there is that we only want 5-star reviews.
4.5.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, no less than 4.
But if you're going to take the time, you may as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Because one of the things we're going forward, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build our podcast listenership, and we're trying to get on more podcasts and do more interviews, and we're trying to find people to work with us. And I know one of the things that people do is they go to Apple or Spotify and check out how many followers you have and how many 5-star ratings, etc., that you have. And that's what we haven't been good at doing is trying to get those, because I myself, I'm a podcast listener every day, 2 or 3 podcasts every day I'm listening to, and I very rarely go and give a 5-star, and then sometimes then someone asks me to, I'm like, I'm going to do that right now. So I know it's you just think, yeah, I'll do it, but we're just saying, please do it now. If you've been thinking about it, now would be the really good time to do it. So as I said, Lyle, we know that 90% of people are listening on Apple or Spotify. We also know that the ages are basically from about 20 up to 60 plus. They're spread right out. We thought we'd appeal to the more mature market, but there's a lot of younger people listening to our podcasts as well, which is exciting. And we have people listening, get this, from over 80 countries around the world.
Really?
Yeah, 80. Doesn't that blow your mind?
It does.
And some of them I haven't even heard of. I was reading Lars pretending like he doesn't know. Like, he's not a very good actor, is he?
Sure, I do.
Because I read the whole list out, and I'm like, should I read this list out on the podcast? And he sort of looked at me as if to say, don't be ridiculous. But the most listeners are from the 5 top countries are the USA, Australia, UK, Canada, and Spain. And Canada and Spain sort of switch a bit. Alternate. That's it for that 4th and 5th number. But I think Italy might be coming into that top 5 soon, and there's more on that in a minuto.
Well, I think that maybe that if we did the podcast in Spanish, I think Spain might actually go to the top.
I get a lot of emails from people trying to sell me their Instagram follower count, from Spanish. But there's 2 countries I'd never heard of, and one was Burkina Faso, and I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. It's 2 words, and I looked it up. It's in West Africa, right? So someone's listening from West Africa. And there's another one called Jersey. Now, I've heard of Guernsey, which is a Channel Island, because we know someone who's from there. And so I had to look up Jersey, and it's actually another Channel Island, sort of in between England and France, right?
Yeah, it's sort of when they named one, it was almost like they made a mistake, spelling mistake. I don't know.
Jersey, Guernsey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Fernsey.
Oh, no, that's Farnsey.
Didn't get him. Oh, I knew it. So I just think, anyway, I think that blows my mind. There's someone listening from Israel and all over the world. Fascinating. Yeah?
Yeah. I agree. I know I'm being a little bit silly, but I'm with you 100%.
One of the other things I found interesting when we're going back over the stats of our previous 50 episodes was, I was saying how our numbers have grown so much. You would think, well, that makes sense because the more episodes, the more listeners, etc. And you'd think that the latest episodes would probably have more listeners. But that's not actually true. The growth has been spread over all the episodes, which is, I found that really, good to know as well, because, like what we've done in the past is still relevant, now. And the most popular episode is episode number 29, which is Barcelona. And that makes sense because, lots of people want to go to Barcelona, and we do a really interesting a really good overview of where to go and where to stay there. And at the bottom of the podcast ladder it's still my favorite episode, and I still love it because it was ticking something off my bucket list. And that is episode number 4, the Chelsea Flower Show.
Yes, the Chelsea Flower Show. What a podcast. I think...
I still think it's one of our best, so go figure, right?
Yeah, well, most of it was about how much the booze cost at each of the pavilions we went to at the flower show.
I disagree. It was me talking about beautiful flowers and displays.
Oh, okay. So it was maybe
your interpretation
focus on
the rosé,
paying £18 for a glass of champagne. But it didn't stop us because we had more.
We did have more.
But it is, seriously, it's a good podcast.
And the Chelsea Flower Show is coming up this month. So, if you want to know what you can do there or how to avoid the 18.
I was going to say, I wonder if the champagne's gone up.
Yeah, maybe. But a quick summary of what our previous episodes have been on. If you haven't listened to all of them, and if you have, you'll think, oh, yeah, I'll remember that one. Obviously, as we said earlier, our first one was in Paris.
Gay Paris.
Yeah, and
I'm
then
not sure you let us say that anymore.
We did a week in London, which we realise now we could have done a few podcasts because there was so much to see in London.
Yeah,
anyway, it doesn't matter. We've done over 25 episodes all around Spain. And that's one of the things I get asked a lot about because it's such a good resource for people going to Spain. I get Aussies, someone from New Zealand messaged me the other day, asking me questions because we've got all the information there. We did 4 on our trip to Mexico. We've done one on Gibraltar. We've just finished our road trip series on Tasmania. Boy, that's been popular. People have asked so many questions. We've got several others from all around Australia as well, from, Darwin and Western Australia, Gold Coast, Brisbane. So many. And, of course, we've chucked in a few interview episodes in there, but also some about our planning and how much our trips have cost and that sort of thing. So there's a huge variety.
Can I just go back to Spain just for the moment?
Oh, please, take me back to Spain.
It was only probably, I don't know, less than a week ago. Leanne and I were having a glass of wine and we were trying to work out which is our favourite part of Spain or place in Spain. And the more and more we talked about it, we couldn't decide because every place we've been in Spain has something special. And maybe especially for us, I'm not sure. I can remember, our anniversary in Almeria dancing on the rooftop.
Yeah.
Spain is something special.
And
if anybody's ever thinking about
going
overseas, to go to somewhere that is absolutely fabulous and so cheap.
And with all those episodes, as I said, I've done a summary, a written summary like a blog and all the pictures. And, sometimes I've included links where I can to make it easy for people to find things. Go and check them out. And there's actually, if you go to our website, beachtravelwine.com/Spain, they're all there. So I've put them all together in one spot for everybody. So it's even easier to find. But one thing I just to quickly touch on before we move on with all our self-love here, I do think our point of difference is with the travel podcast is we talk about places that we've been, that we've spent time in. We do a deep dive into those places. We don't just hit the highlights. Our podcast, for instance, about Paris isn't just about, doing the hop on, hop off bus and looking at the Eiffel Tower. We talk about where we've walked along the Seine and what cafe we stopped at and where we've stayed and where we've had, dinner and how we got there and the sunset, what it was like. And, just all the things, little cafes to sit and have dinner that we discover and we share that, so if someone listens, they feel like they're traveling with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope we hope they do anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And the reason we can, do so much information is 1, now we do the research. 2, we go and we try and find these places and the information to help people. That's what we do. Yeah. So and just to put it all together in a podcast episode and show notes and a blog post. So yeah. Anyway, after tooting our own horn, toot toot, I think it's time to share what we've got coming up. And if, as I said before, if you're listening to this in real time, May 2023, we will be on our way or traveling around
Italia.
Italy. Yeah, we are spending 8 weeks exploring, researching, taking pictures for our podcast and website. We're going to be busy working. Don't worry though.
I gotta tell you all that for me to convince Leanne not to go to Spain and to go to Italy, I reckon it's taken about 2 years. And and the great part about it is I've really noticed over the last few weeks that Leanne's really, really excited to go, and she's learning all the phrases.
Well, that's not true. I'm learning. I've started Duolingo, and all I'm learning is he eats apples. Yesterday, I learnt that the elephant eats a mouse. So I don't know how helpful that is. But
I spoke to Cal, my brother, and he said you just say ciao to everything.
Yes, ciao. So here is our itinerary for our 8 weeks in Italy. We are flying into Marco Polo airport into Venice, and we're having 3 nights in Venice, and then we are going over to Trieste and having 4 nights there, and we're actually doing a day trip into Slovenia from Trieste. Then we're having 4 nights in Verona, and we were going to go from Verona to Milan, but our plans were changed. We're now going to Bologna for the weekend for a very special reason, which Lyle will tell you in a little while. Then we're heading off to Lake Como for a week. Very fancy.
Yeah, we'll probably call in and see George, his wife.
Probably.
Yeah, at Lake Como.
Maybe. Then from Lake Como, we're off to the Cinque Terre for a week as well. And following that, we're into Florence for a week. And after that, just because we're going to be so exhausted, we're just staying in a winery for 2 nights in Tuscany. Yeah. It's got an infinity pool. I can't wait to go there. I'm so excited. And then we are in Rome for a week as well. And we've booked, the Vatican and things that people say you need to get tickets to. And we've got the earliest ones I could get. And then after a week in Rome, we are doing a tour with some good friends of ours from Australia. And that tour goes from Rome down to Amalfi and some places in between. So it's we're covering a fair bit of area, but we're having a bit of time doing it. So now I'm going to ask another quick favour is, I know many of our listeners, everyone you speak to, saying going to Italy, they all tell you some, places you should go. But I'd love it if, we in the show notes with this episode. So if you go to the show description, there'll be a link to the show notes, and in there'll be a button that you can press to send a voice message to give us some recommendations of what we should do in any of these places. It's a bit different. Of course, we know the highlights, and also, some restaurants that we shouldn't miss, that you think we would enjoy having a glass of wine at. Yeah. We would really appreciate that.
Yeah, probably, during our travels, probably some of the best times we've ever had and the best food we've ever eaten and the best wine we've ever drank have been recommended to us by friends or by
fellow travelers.
Friends that Leanne's got made, through her social media. And each time it's been fabulous.
Yeah, I always reach out because people love sharing, where they've been and what they know, especially if they're locals.
Yeah, well, when Leanne said she was going to mention this today, I'm really, really hoping that we do get a good response from it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. We're asking people to do a little bit, but we haven't done that before, so I'm really hoping we get some great. So if you've got something you want to share, that'd be awesome. And we just can't wait. We're so excited. As I said, Lyle's been doing research. I've been, all over the Italy Facebook travel pages, and we just can't wait to bring you all the episodes about Italy and share them with you. And later in the year, we're also off to New Zealand, so there'll be some podcasts about that as well. So a fair bit going on, isn't there? So to recap, just if you have enjoyed any of our podcasts so far, there are some things you can do to show support, and it won't cost you any money, I promise, unless we run into you somewhere in Italy, we'll buy you a glass of wine. But there are some things you can do to support our podcast, our show. And we've been around, as I said, a year. We really haven't asked, actively asked for reviews and things. We've just been given the great information out there. And so I've come up with a list of 10 things that you can do to support us. So you only need to pick one. In fact, there's 11. There's a bonus one at the end. So, and I'm just going to go through that. And I'm going to get Lyle to let you know why we're off to Bologna. Yeah, It's pretty exciting. We're very excited to be doing that. So the number one way you can give us, to help our show and show your support is to go to Apple, if you're an Apple podcast listener. And as we said, leave a review and a star rating there for us. Number two, go to Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener, and lots of people, as we know, are, and same thing, you can leave a 5, you can give stars there. Number three, you can, if you not listening on any of those, you can leave a review on the app you're actually listening on. Number four, you can follow or subscribe to the podcast on where you're listening as well, because that shows up on our stats. People take that into account as well. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. We're at Beach Travel Wine. We're really easy to find, and that's worth doing if you want to follow our daily travels, because I put stories up on Instagram and Facebook every day of what we're doing while we're traveling. So that's a lot of fun. You can send us a voice message on the link in the show notes, which I mentioned earlier. And you can go to the show notes, just go there and check out the pictures and information. Like having people visit our website is always great for our numbers there as well. Or you could share the podcast with a couple of friends or family members. Everyone knows someone who's traveling somewhere, and especially, Italy or Spain or around Australia, the places we've been. So yeah, just give them, that's how I find podcasts. People do recommendations all the time, and, I check them out. Or if you don't want to do any of that, you're a bit old-fashioned like me, you can send me an email. So at leanne@beachtravelwine.com, say hi. You can give us a review there, and I can put that on our website. That'd be great. Send us a direct message at Instagram or Messenger with Facebook. We're always getting messages there with people asking us questions. It'd be nice to get a bit of a review. Be great. And as I said, number 11, the extra one, you can join our email list, because I'm going to be, I think this is really clever, I figured this out, I'm going to be sending digital postcards of our trip around Italy. So you won't want to miss that. And the link will be in the show notes. So to get to our show notes, as I said, go to the podcast description and the link will be there. Or you can find us on beachtravelwine.com and go to episode 51 of the podcast. So one more thing. We'd love to know where people are enjoying a glass of wine. Like we always say at the end, where we enjoy a glass of wine. We would like to know, wouldn't we? Send us a pic or just a message, especially if it's in Italy.
Yeah, and especially if it's a really good wine, because then we'll try it. We'll buy some.
Yeah. Okay, all right. You've all been waiting, I know, to hear why we changed our travel plans from Milan, our weekend in Milan, to a weekend in Bologna. So Lyle, take that away.
Well, this is our, time to boast. My godson, Harry Jones, has been recruited to drive in the Super Porsche Cup in Europe. And he's also been recruited by another racing team to do the Carrera Cup in Germany.
Yes.
Anyway, he's the Super Cup,
yep.
the Porsche Super Cup is the prelim race for F1 in Europe.
Yeah.
So
yes,
Harry's first race in the Super Porsche Cup is in Imola.
Yeah.
Imola. I got in trouble because I called it Imola.
No, Imola, you said.
Well, whatever it was, I got it wrong.
Imola.
But I was quickly told that was wrong. But yeah, so we
Imola is right near Bologna, is what we're saying.
Yeah. So we're staying in Bologna. It's not far.
So we're going to the F1.
So we're going to the F1 at Imola. Imola. And that's the Ferrari racetrack. So it's going to be fabulous. we can't wait to see the atmosphere, be there in the
and
atmosphere.
support Harry.
And support Harry. And
the man from Australia.
The man from Australia. Yeah. So go, Harry.
And you know what? That'll make a really good podcast episode, I reckon.
I'm thinking it'll be pretty good. So, yeah, like Harry, great guy, and really looking forward to seeing him do so well.
Yeah. So thank you for listening into episode 51. If this is your first episode, welcome. If you've listened to a number of them, thanks so much. And, you know, we can't wait to share the rest of our travels with you. Yeah. And we will see you in Italy. See you no.
Arrivederci.
That's it. Ciao.
Ciao.